Hey everybody, my name's Jake, and what we're going to be going over today are some of the best practices of selling mobile websites. We're going to cover pitching, site simulations, prospecting, closing deals, and wrapping up. We're also going to touch on a lot of statistics here today, and we're going to go over some of the idiosyncrasies of pitching with a script. To start, let's talk about what mobile websites are exactly, because this is an area where a lot of people get confused. A lot of people think, well, a mobile website is just pretty much a shrunk down version of a standard website, and that really isn't precisely true. Yes, mobile websites are small because they have to fit into small screens, but they have a different set of features that are really tailored and built around the touchscreen technology of today. First of all, mobile sites are small devices that are built to run on iPhones, iPads, BlackBerry devices, Windows mobile devices, and of course Android. They're designed to load very quickly, so they have to be built small. They have to be built so that they load on the edge 3G, 4G networks. They have to be built with these networks in mind. Some of the key features, if you take a look at the Go Fitness website over here, we have a mobile maps button up at the top, we have a click to call button at the top, and we have large thumb-friendly buttons. This is really critical to understanding the proper design, the proper UI UX of a mobile site. If you have a smartphone of any kind, it's guaranteed that you've browsed the mobile web, you've looked at sites, but if you look at them through the perspective of an engineer, you realize that not all mobile sites are built the same. Some mobile sites are built that look very pretty but provide very little functionality. Some of them are built that have no functionality whatsoever beyond just being sort of a pretty little coupon that would load up on the screen, and that's very suboptimal when you're talking about building a mobile site that's really designed to be a utilitarian utilization sort of object, sort of a bridge, if you will. Our company's philosophy is that mobile sites are a bridge, and by that we mean that a mobile site is something that somebody's going to go to and quickly utilize to get information, either get information very quickly and make a decision, or they're going to contact the company and bridge over to a different marketing venue. So they're going to go to a mobile website, they're going to hit the click to call button, they're going to talk to somebody, they're going to hit to maps, the map function, and they're going to drive there, or they're going to click to text or click to email, and they're going to email or otherwise contact the business. So the mobile site in and of itself differs greatly from a desktop website or a standard PC site, however you phrase it, in that it is really acting strictly as a bridge. It is not acting in the way that a standard site would behave. Now, the first thing probably on your mind is prospecting. When you think about prospecting for mobile sites, some people get the impression that it's very different than other forms of prospecting. The truth is, it's only different in one respect. It's different in that you have a massive market. The market today is not saturated. Very few companies have mobile sites. It's north of 75% are without a mobile website at present, and the number, though decreasing, isn't decreasing rapidly. It's still a massive market. Now, if you think about it, you really have three options for marketing, aside from perhaps your company supplies a dialer system, perhaps they don't, but you really have three different options: by phone, by email, or in person. And if you utilize these different venues properly, you can have a good time. You can do very well in sales with this. Utilizing by phone is as simple as picking up the telephone and calling a business. By email is as simple as emailing them, and in person is of course just knocking a door and talking to somebody physically, although sometimes one comes before the other. We recommend utilizing Manta.com. Until we get other marketing venues online, this is going to be the most important tool that you have at your disposal for getting in touch with contacts, getting in touch with customers and prospects. There's millions of businesses on Manta. Virtually every business is listed there in North America. There's detailed information including the owners' names and information on contacting them. It's targeted. You can browse over to Manta, you can target local, state, or regional, and best of all, it's completely free. To use Manta, you just browse over to the website, type in a business category. If you're targeting locksmiths, you might type New York locksmith. Now it's going to come up with a series of listings, and you just click on those listings. Here's one in the upper right up here. This listing presents numerous businesses that meets the search criteria. In this case, it's Easy Locksmith at 1915 Bath Avenue in Brooklyn. And you just click on that listing and uploads the information for Bath Avenue, and it gives the person's email address, the contact there. You can view the phone number, and you can contact Richard Antonelli. Pitching. Second really important category. Pitching is really about statistics. This industry is an industry that today is much the way the web was in 1993 or 1994. Few people remember 95 was the year that the web really took off. It's where mainstream America went on the web, where the web just grew exponentially all over the country, all over North America. It exploded. And up until about 1995, the web was something that was growing exponentially, but the focus on it was really only amongst businesses, and it wasn't amongst consumers. It wasn't amongst smaller businesses. In 95, a lot of companies got a rude awakening that year, and it's really a cutoff point in business, but that's a whole other discussion. 95 is a really critical year to remember when you remember the web, because we're fast approaching our 1995 for this. Our 95 is probably going to be the 2014 year. That's what it's looking like statistically. The mobile web has been just growing. It's just going parabolic. It's growing at an enormous rate. It's unbelievable. And let's just go over some statistics that are going to help you to close. Before we look at statistics, let's just talk about how we use these stats really briefly. Pitching is really about understanding your audience's perspective, and we'll get into that towards the end more, but just think about the perspective as you look at these statistics, absorb it, understand that your audience is going to look at numbers differently. If 50% of the market, if you're talking retail, and I give a statistic that 75% of retail consumers make a decision within a half hour when they're on the mobile web, well, that's going to matter to somebody selling retail. It might not matter at all to somebody selling B2B. You know, pitching mobile is about having a concrete reason why someone in their shoes would need or buy mobile. That's precisely right, and that plays into number one here, because understanding that business's perspective upon the statistics in the marketplace is really going to give you an insight and a good inroad to selling that person. And then finally, number three here is urgency. Urgency is really important in all sales to some degree. Some sales it's important not to be urgent because you don't want to put pressure. You want people to make their own decisions. In some sales it's not. In this venue, given that we're going to be doing sales over either the internet or we're going to be doing sales maybe at trade shows, door to door, we're going to be doing sales in one or more venues where there's going to be a need to have some urgency. The statistics, if you're used right, can greatly enhance your ability to create urgency and to close deals. So let's look at some statistics. We'll just move on here. How consumers use mobile. These are all valid statistics here. 50% of American adults will own a smartphone by the end of 2011. That was true. 81% use it to browse the internet. That is true. Think about that. Think about that statistic. 50% of adults own a smartphone. We're a country of 300 million people. That's 150 million people, or 150 million of adults who outnumber children in our day and age, are using mobile. Even if that number breaks down to 81%, you're still talking 40 million people on the mobile web. 77% use it to access search engine data. Enormous. 48% use it to watch videos. Enormous. 44% use it to read reviews or product info. 1 in 3 mobile searches are local. 95% of mobile users look up local information. 59% of users visit a business. 61% of users call a business. 44% of users make a purchase. 88% of local info seekers take action within 1 day. 48% use their phone while eating. 39% use their phone while reading a newspaper or magazine. 50% of American adults will own a smartphone by the end of 2011. Now this statistic, although it is antiquated now, we're in 2012, that statistic, it even has more relevance because since then, even more people have upgraded. I think we're around 65 or 70% now. You're going to have to check Google, and check Google. Don't just go by this video. Go to Google, do a search on mobile stats, and take a look at the latest and greatest statistics that are out there in the marketplace. Because those statistics are going to be higher than these statistics. The mobile web is growing, not shrinking. Anyhow, 77% use it to access a search engine, 48% use it to watch videos, 79% of mobile users use their smartphone to help with shopping, 49% use it to compare prices, 54% use it to find a retailer, and 48% use it to get promotions or coupons. All these statistics taken individually could be said to mean very little. Looked at together, this shows a trend. It's a trend that other statistics back up, but looked at on whole, since most of these statistics are concerned with adult consumers and how consumers are behaving, really build a strong case, and you could take 3 or 4 or 2 of them or however many to talk to a customer and say, hey, look at this statistic. This is you. This is your business that's being negatively impacted by not being on the web. You need to get yourself a mobile site. This is as bad as not having a website in the year 2000. This is as bad as not having a website. People are moving to mobile. They're moving in droves. It's the herd is going there, and people who aren't in that herd are getting hurt. Why do businesses need a mobile website? 95% of smartphone users have searched for local information. 61% of users call a business after searching. 59% visit the location. 90% of these people act within 24 hours. What does that statistic tell you? What does that tell you? That tells you 95% of smartphone users have searched for local information. 90% of these people act within 24 hours. Just ignore the middle one. Ignore the middle one for a minute and just think about that. 95% of people who search, 61% of these people are users call a business after searching, 59% visit the location, and 90% of those take action. So what you're basically saying, if you go through this, is roughly speaking 50% of people who have a smartphone do local searches and take action with that. 50%. Think about that. I mean, you're talking, let's say, up here you're 95%, and 90% of the ones that do the local searches. So split that in half, and then say that 90% of half of that, roughly speaking, that's an enormous amount of people. Enormous. Since it's over half, that's 50% of smartphone users, roughly. To a retailer, this means everything. To a barber shop, to somebody with a restaurant, to somebody with an automotive repair business, this could be the difference between a sale and not having a sale. And it doesn't take many sales to justify having a mobile site. Now, let's take a look at some more. 70% of mobile users have compared product prices on their phones. Again, think of the past statistics we just looked at. The millions of people, 50% of adults in 2011 were on smartphones. Now we're talking about 70% of those people comparing product prices on their phones. 70% of 300 million person country, 50% of the adults in that country have smartphones, and 70% of those people are comparing prices. You're talking about droves of people, tens and tens, maybe over 100 million people. 65% have read product reviews on their phones. 50% of mobile searches lead to a purchase. These are powerful statistics that, if you utilize them, will help you to sell. There's no question. These are sourceable statistics. These are published by Google. These are not statistics we invented. They're not statistics that anybody just wrote up. A designer didn't design that statistic. Google came out with these statistics. These are statistics from the largest, biggest player in the game, biggest company out there in the tech sector, and they're saying that this is the way things are. 71% of users expect a mobile site to load as fast as a desktop site. 60% of users expect a mobile site to load in 3 seconds or less, and 78% will retry a site 2 times or less if it does not load initially. What does that mean? That means that your mobile users, the people who are browsing these sites, had better have a site that loads quickly, or they're going to just go elsewhere. That's what it ultimately means. It means that people need to have a mobile site that's built correctly, that's built like the ones that we have at our company. If they're not built the way that we build them, they're junk. Maybe there are other good companies out there, and there's certainly other ways that you can build a good mobile site, but many mobile sites are not built like that. And certainly desktop sites that people are counting on, individuals zooming in with their two fingers, the little pinchy fingers on an iPhone to zoom the screen in, that isn't going to work. That's certainly not going to work because the site's been built for a desktop connection. It's been built for a fast connection. And even if you're on 4G, you're still not on a connection that's optimized for mobile. The site you're loading is not optimized for a 4G connection. No site is, unless it's built for it, which is very important. And these statistics are important as well, because when you're talking to a business owner and you're saying to them, look, here's why you need to have a mobile site. You need to have a mobile site because 71% of users expect a mobile site to load as fast as a desktop site, and I'm not inventing it. Google told me that, and they do market research. They're a multi-billion-dollar firm. It carries some weight. Did you know 80% of customers abandon a mobile site if they have a bad user experience? What is a bad user experience? This is something we should go over here in this video. Well, a bad user experience is not always a site that loads slow. It can be a site that's finicky, that's jittery, that just doesn't work right. You ever load a website on one of your Blackberries or iPhones or Androids, and the site loads and you try to click with your button, with your finger, but it's really laggy, or you hit something with your thumb, or you hit something with your index finger and it takes you some totally other place because the buttons are too small, or you're trying to look at an image and you go to zoom in and it takes you to another page. These are all part of what they call UI UX, user interface and user experience design. And good UI UX standards are laid down by a good company. They're built like the way that we build sites. They're built by a company that understands UI UX, knows what it means, and implements it into their design phase of their sites. Many times, if you deal with those sites that are like that, you'll go back and you'll note in your mind, if you remember it, that those were sites that weren't mobile, or they were sites that were built, sort of quickly or thrown together for mobile. Let's look at these statistics. 57% would not recommend a business with a bad mobile site. 40% have turned to a competitor's site after a bad mobile experience, and 23% of adults have cursed at their phone when a site doesn't work. So, what do these statistics tell you? Well, the first one just tells you kind of the obvious. Why would you recommend somebody who has a bad website? I mean, why would you do that? I wouldn't recommend a business that has, a restaurant with a dirty kitchen, and you wouldn't recommend an automotive repair shop that can't change tires. It speaks to the professionalism of the company, and it's bad, and people get a bad impression. They don't want to recommend it. Why would they? Unless for some reason the company has a bad mobile site, but it's their friend or something else. Maybe they have a good experience when they actually go there. 40% have turned to a competitor site after a bad mobile experience. Well, that's just logical. Of course, you go somewhere else, the place doesn't load up on your phone. I mean, when do you use mobile? You use mobile when you're mobile. So you're looking for something. You're looking for a business. And 23% cursing at their phone just shows you how it creates palpable anger when the site loads bad. It shows you that it actually gets people angry. Always a bad thing. Bad first impression to get people angry. All mobile phone users will reach 242.6 million in 2012. That's an enormous statistic. By 2013, more people use their mobile phones than PCs to get online. Mobile searches have grown by 4 times just since 2010. Think about that. Less than 24 months ago, since this video is recorded, within the past 24 months, the number of mobile searches has grown by 4 times what it was. That's exponential growth. That is growth that is enormous, absolutely mind-boggling. There is one mobile device for every person on Earth by 2015. There will be one mobile device on Earth for every person on Earth. Think about that. By 2015, in other words, within 36 months from now, this video being recorded, there's going to be a mobile device for every humanoid on Earth. That's a big market. That's huge. That's bigger than cars in terms of sheer numbers. That's bigger than houses in sheer numbers. That's bigger than many common things that we associate with our lives. It's a bigger number. It's a device for every single person on the planet. That is an enormous market. That's our market, and that's a statistic to remember. There isn't even a PC right now today for every person on Earth. Yeah, but there will be a mobile device. 80% of users won't leave their home without their mobile device. What this tells you is you have a captive audience. You have an audience in mobile that is a 24/7 audience. Certain markets are similar to this. People buy things and then they become part of their life. They're a life-changing item. Probably when they invented the shirt was a life-changing item. The eyeglasses, life-changing item. The car, the bicycle, or the horse, conveyance. Mobile is in that caliber. It's in that range of items that once adopted is seldom, if ever, thrown away or discarded. It's something that becomes part of people's lives. It changes people's lives. People use mobile in ways that they never thought they would 5 years ago or 6 years ago. That's important, and it's important to remember this statistic because it tells you that when you sell somebody a mobile site, it's going to be used. Now, let's talk about when you're pitching. This is important, and what's important about this is, I know we're doing kind of a 180 here, but let's go back to pitching. You get on the phone with somebody, and you're going to have a script probably similar to the script that's sitting over here in this slide. You start to talk to somebody. Certain salespeople tend to regress to a time when they were a telemarketer, or maybe certain telemarketers who are moving into sales move forward into it, stay right where they are. They have inertia to be a telemarketer, and they just read a script. I tried to go on your mobile website and it didn't seem to load. Seems like you have a problem with your website, and so on. They talk like a robot. That's not the point of the call. The point of the call is to make the sale. Now, you're probably a sales professional, and this seems kind of hokey to you, but it's something that we need to go over, that you can't take scripts too literally. If you take them too literally, you're relegating yourself to being a telemarketer, and you will not make sales that way. Nobody buys from a robot. Maybe they did in the 70s when robots were in vogue. They don't today, and I guarantee you they won't in 1,000 years. People want a human being to talk to answer their questions. They want to talk to a person. So, when you look at the script that you've been supplied, don't take it literally. Take it as a guidepost, a blueprint, a rough copy. Make it yours. Inject yourself into it. Be yourself. Engage your prospects. Go off topic. When I jump on sales calls, I go way off topic. Sometimes I get on the phone call and I start talking to somebody about mobile sites, and 5 minutes later we're talking about phones, then we're talking about computers, then we're talking about the gentleman or lady's daughter or son going off to college, then we're talking about colleges, and then we're talking about, and we go in a big circle. We meander all over the place in conversation, but the point is that as I'm talking about all these other subjects, I'm bringing it back, building rapport, bringing them back to what I want to talk about in the end, which is the mobile site. So be yourself, engage your prospect, don't take scripts literally. Do follow scripts though. Use them for all they're worth. This script is filled with updated, revised statistics. Your script will probably look something like this modified. Depends upon what we're rolling out that week, what our company decides to push out to you this week or this month, and use it for what it's worth. Now, let's say you're on a call and you're talking to somebody and you run into a situation where someone's interested. The thing to do is to request a site simulation. Now, we're going to go over site simulations in just a minute here, but you have to know first when to utilize them, when to request a site simulation. You request a site simulation when there is customer interest, when there is a genuine rapport built, when you have a solid commitment for a next meeting, and when there's legitimate chance of a sale. Some people think that because site simulations exist, they can rely on them to make sales for them. This is the wrong approach. Very wrong approach. Site simulations are serious. They require our company to have our design department go in and actually make them. They represent an investment on the part of our business into that sale, into that pitch. There's a financial investment whenever they're utilized, and that financial investment needs to be taken with the respect that it's due. That means that when you go ahead and you want to have a site simulation, just make sure that it is a serious pitch and that it is something that is very relevant and very useful, because it's a great closing tool. Site simulations are excellent closing tools. Let's take a look at one. This is a site simulation of Wikipedia. Everyone's familiar with Wikipedia.org, you know, giant encyclopedia website edited by the general public of the internet. And this is what it looks like on an iPhone. The left-hand side here before. Looks pretty horrible. Can't really read it. Sort of looks like just mashed up nothing if you really look at it. Now, if you actually had this iPhone in your hand, you could kind of put your fingers there and zoom in and move around and sort of surf the site, look around. Maybe you could utilize it. But you look at the one on the right here, which is afterwards, and this is how it really should be. This is how the site was designed to be in mobile. This is in our platform, okay, where everything's button clickable, where the site's useful. And we're going to look at this website live in a moment when this presentation's over. We'll take a look at it and play with it a little bit. But what the Site Simulator does is it gives a customer, assuming Wikipedia bought things, someone could go to Wikipedia and say, hey, here's your website simulation, and it shows them how their site is right now and how their site can be in the future.